The moment you begin to notice your breathing, something subtle already starts to shift. You do not have to control it yet. Just notice the gentle rise and fall, the way air enters without effort and leaves without resistance. This noticing alone sends a quiet signal inward, a signal that nothing urgent is required right now. Beneath the surface of thought, beneath memory and planning, the body listens for cues about safety. When it hears slowness, it softens. When it senses permission, it releases. Long before words form, long before emotions are named, this dialogue between awareness and the nervous system is already happening, shaping how the next moment will feel. Emotions are often treated like sudden guests, as if they arrive uninvited and disrupt an otherwise neutral inner world. In reality, emotion is more like weather that is constantly forming, influenced by pressure, temperature, and unseen currents. Even when you believe nothing is happening, signals are moving. The heart adjusts its rhythm, muscles tighten or loosen, attention leans forward or pulls back. These shifts are not mistakes. They are the body's way of staying oriented in a world that is always changing. Feeling is not an interruption to life. It is one of the primary ways life is navigated. Consider how often a feeling appears before a clear thought, a heaviness in the chest before you can explain why a conversation feels difficult, a warmth behind the eyes before you realize you feel moved, a tightening in the stomach before you can name the worry. These sensations are not random. They are messages arriving early, before language has time to catch up. The brain is constantly comparing the present moment to patterns stored from the past, asking one quiet question again and again: does this matter? When the answer leans toward yes, the body prepares first. Story comes later. This is why emotions can feel confusing. You may notice your body reacting and then search for a reason, scanning your environment, your memories, your expectations. Sometimes the reason you find is accurate. Sometimes it is only the closest explanation available. The mind dislikes uncertainty inside the body. When sensation arrives without a clear cause, the brain fills in the gap. This does not mean you are wrong or weak. It means your system is designed to make sense of itself, even when information is incomplete. Imagination plays a powerful role here. The body does not strictly separate what is happening now from what is vividly imagined. A future conversation replayed in the mind can produce the same tension as if it were already unfolding. A remembered moment of safety can bring calm into the present as if it were happening again. Emotion follows meaning, not time. If something feels relevant, the nervous system responds. This is why worry can feel so real even when nothing has happened, and why hope can steady you before circumstances change. Daydreams, often dismissed as idle wandering, are actually rehearsals. When your thoughts drift, they tend to drift toward what matters emotionally. The mind practices scenarios, tests outcomes, and through that practice, trains the body. Repeated imagined failure can teach dread. Repeated imagined steadiness can teach calm. These lessons accumulate quietly. You may notice their effects without remembering the rehearsal that created them. This is not about forcing positive images or avoiding difficult ones. It is about recognizing that attention is a kind of nourishment. What you feed repeatedly grows stronger pathways. It is also why the same event can land so differently in different people. No moment arrives alone. It arrives carrying history, expectation, and context. A crowded room can feel electric to one person and overwhelming to another. Silence can feel peaceful or threatening depending on what it has meant before. Emotion is not simply a reaction to what is happening. It is a reaction to what the brain predicts will happen next. Those predictions are shaped over years, sometimes decades, by experience that may not be conscious but is deeply encoded. There are emotions that shrink the world and emotions that expand it. Fear and sadness can narrow attention, pulling focus toward potential loss or threat. In those states, small details can feel enormous, as if everything depends on one fragile point. This narrowing is not failure. It is conservation. When resources feel scarce, the system simplifies. Joy and curiosity often do the opposite. They widen attention, allowing the mind to see patterns, possibilities, and connections that were invisible before. Neither mode is better in all situations. They are tools, activated according to perceived need. Awe is a particularly interesting experience because it rearranges scale. When you encounter something vast, whether in nature, art, or human kindness, the sense of self can feel smaller in a relieving way. Worries that felt heavy moments before lose some of their weight. Attention shifts from control to orientation, from fixing to witnessing. In that space, people often feel both humbled and connected, as if belonging expands when the self loosens its grip. This emotion does not demand immediate action, it invites perspective. Many emotional shifts begin in the body through simple physical changes. A slower exhale can reduce the sense of urgency within minutes. Lengthening the breath out sends a message of safety through pathways that evolved long before language. This is why a sigh arrives naturally after tension. It is not resignation, it is regulation. Hydration, posture, warmth, and movement all contribute quietly to emotional tone. A slightly dehydrated brain works harder, and that extra effort can show up as irritability. A slumped posture compresses breathing and signals fatigue. A warm cup held in the hands can soften social judgments without you noticing why. These influences do not mean emotions are shallow or purely mechanical. They mean emotions are embodied. Thought and sensation are woven together. The heart, the gut, the lungs, and the muscles send information upward, and the brain uses that information as part of its interpretation of the world. This internal sensing, often unnoticed, shapes whether a moment feels manageable or overwhelming. Sometimes an emotion seems to come from nowhere because its first signal arrived as a physical shift, not a thought. Social connection adds another layer. Humans are built to resonate with each other. Facial expressions, tone of voice, and rhythm of speech spread through groups quickly. A single calm presence can slow a room. A single sharp look can tighten it. Much of this happens automatically, through tiny muscle movements mirrored without conscious decision. This is why laughter can erupt in waves and why tension can feel contagious. Emotion is not only something you have, it is something you participate in together. Belonging has measurable effects on how stress is experienced. When you feel supported, challenges demand less energy because the nervous system expects backup if things go wrong. Even subtle cues of inclusion can lower the cost of effort. Being remembered, being invited, being acknowledged tells the body that it is not facing the world alone. In contrast, exclusion activates alarm systems similar to those involved in physical pain. Social disconnection is not metaphorically painful. It is processed as threat because, historically, it was. Some emotions exist in pairs, sharing deeper roots. Love and grief both arise from attachment. The same bond that brings safety and warmth also creates vulnerability. When a connection is threatened or lost, the system keeps reaching, searching for what used to regulate it. This is why grief can include moments of vivid presence, as if the person were still near. The body has not yet updated its map. In this way, grief reveals the depth of love rather than its absence. Not all emotions are large and dramatic. Many are brief, almost invisible. A flicker of irritation, a flash of interest, a momentary lift. These micro-emotions still matter. They steer attention, influence choices, and accumulate over time. You may turn away from an idea or lean toward a person based on a feeling that lasted less than a second. Emotional life is not only made of storms, it is also made of breezes that quietly change direction. Expression plays an important role in regulation. Writing, for example, can transform looping distress into a sequence with a beginning and an end. When experience is given structure, the nervous system often stands down. This is not because writing erases pain, but because it creates coherence. The body relaxes when meaning feels contained. Tears can serve a similar function. They sometimes arrive before understanding, changing breathing and muscle tension, releasing overload before words are ready. Crying is not only a signal to others, it is a mechanism of internal reset. Language shapes emotion in powerful ways. Having a precise word can turn a vague discomfort into something workable. Naming does not create the feeling, but it gives it edges. Once a feeling has a name, it can be approached with curiosity instead of fear. Some languages offer words for emotional states that others describe only indirectly, and learning those words can expand awareness. You begin to notice distinctions that were previously blurred. What becomes speakable becomes manageable. Anticipation deserves special attention because it often carries more intensity than the event itself. The waiting, the imagining, the build-up can generate a rich emotional landscape that reality struggles to match. This does not mean disappointment is inevitable. It means anticipation is its own experience, powered by possibility. Possibility has no limits, so it can feel enormous. Recognizing this can help you enjoy anticipation without demanding that the future live up to it exactly. Calm is often borrowed rather than created. Slow speech, gentle pacing, and unhurried presence can guide others' nervous systems towards steadiness. This is not persuasion, it is synchronization. When someone speaks slowly, listeners often breathe more deeply without noticing. Urgency dissolves because time feels available again. Solutions that were hidden at high speed become visible when the pace drops. Expectation itself can shape experience. Belief in relief can reduce threat signals, altering how sensations are interpreted. This does not mean suffering is imagined. It means meaning influences physiology. Reassurance from a trusted source can calm the body because prediction changes. The system prepares for safety instead of danger. In this way, confidence, care, and context become part of the effect. Emotion also filters perception. When you are tense, the world can look sharper, harsher, more demanding. When you are at ease, subtle details emerge. The same room can appear different depending on inner state. This is not because reality changes, but because attention does. Fear sharpens hearing, turning ordinary sounds into urgent signals. At night, when anxiety is high, silence can feel loud. Understanding this can help separate sensation from interpretation. Anger brings a sense of certainty that can feel like clarity. It narrows focus and boosts confidence, sometimes beyond accuracy. This makes anger persuasive, both to the person feeling it and to others. Yet anger often points to a boundary or value that feels threatened. Treated as information rather than instruction, it can guide repair instead of escalation. The challenge is listening to what anger indicates without obeying everything it demands. Time behaves strangely under emotion. Anxiety can stretch seconds into long moments filled with monitoring and prediction. Sadness can slow the world, pulling attention inward. Joy can make hours pass unnoticed. These distortions are not illusions. They reflect how attention is allocated. When the mind is busy scanning for threat, each moment carries more content. When it is open and engaged, time feels lighter. Relief can feel like pleasure because it marks the end of alarm. When danger signals stop, the body releases energy it had been holding in reserve. This release can feel warm, light, even dizzy. Relief teaches as well. When feared outcomes do not occur, predictions update. The system learns, slowly, that some alarms were unnecessary. Many emotional misinterpretations arise from similar physical sensations. Excitement and fear both involve arousal. A racing heart can be labeled either way depending on context and story. Learning to treat bodily energy as neutral before labeling it can change how you respond. The sensation does not dictate the meaning. Meaning is chosen, often quickly, but it can be reconsidered. Emotions are not fixed traits. They are processes shaped by sleep, nutrition, movement, connection, and habit. Rest, in particular, recalibrates emotional reactivity. After sleep, annoyances often lose their edge. Without sleep, feelings sharpen. The same is true, to a smaller degree, with naps. Fatigue reduces the ability to read others accurately and to pause before reacting. Energy is not only physical, it is emotional capacity. This understanding invites compassion toward yourself when reactions feel out of proportion, toward others when behavior seems sharp or withdrawn. Often what looks like personality is state, and states can change. Emotions are not enemies to be defeated. They are signals to be understood, weather patterns to be navigated. When you stop fighting their existence and start listening to their information, they become guides rather than obstacles. As awareness deepens, you may notice that calm is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel without being overtaken. It is space around sensation, room to choose response. That space grows through small, consistent signals of safety, through breath noticed, through rest taken seriously, through connection valued, through meaning clarified. Nothing dramatic is required. Change often begins quietly, like a tide turning beneath still water. As awareness continues to settle, another layer of emotional life begins to reveal itself, one that operates even when you believe nothing is happening at all. Beneath conscious feeling, there is a constant background activity, a low hum of evaluation that never truly switches off. The mind is always asking whether the current moment aligns with safety, meaning, or threat. Most of the time, this assessment stays below language, shaping mood rather than forming clear emotion. You may describe the day as heavy or light, slow or sharp, without being able to point to a single cause. That background tone is not accidental. It is the cumulative result of thousands of tiny signals added together. One of the most overlooked influences on this emotional baseline is predictability. The nervous system relaxes when it can anticipate what comes next. This does not mean life must be boring or rigid. It means that some rhythms, even small ones, help the body conserve energy. Repeated actions done in familiar sequences quietly tell the system that not everything needs monitoring. Washing your hands in the same way, preparing a drink with the same steps, sitting in a familiar position before rest. These are not meaningless habits. They are anchors. Each one reduces uncertainty just enough to make space for ease. This is why disruptions can feel emotionally louder than their practical impact would suggest. A delayed response, a changed plan, an unexpected silence. Even when the outcome is neutral, the uncertainty itself can activate alarm. The mind fills the gap with possibilities, many of them negative, because preparing for threat feels safer than being surprised by it. You may notice that receiving bad news sometimes feels easier than waiting for news at all. Certainty, even when unpleasant, allows the body to stand down. Uncertainty stretches attention forward into the future. The present moment becomes crowded with imagined outcomes, rehearsed conversations, alternate explanations. This mental activity consumes energy and can make stillness feel uncomfortable. The body remains on alert, waiting for resolution. Understanding this can soften self-judgment. Restlessness during uncertainty is not a failure of patience. It is a system designed to keep watch when the map is incomplete. Trust operates in a similar way, but in reverse. Trust reduces the need for constant monitoring. When trust is present, the mind stops checking every signal for hidden danger. The body relaxes into a state where energy can be used for exploration, creativity, and connection instead of defense. Trust is rarely built from grand promises. It is assembled from consistency. Small moments where words match actions, where presence matches expectation, where repair follows mistakes. Over time, these moments form a felt sense of reliability that lives in the body more than in thought. This bodily sense of trust is why betrayal hurts so deeply. It is not only disappointment, it is disorientation. The map that guided predictions suddenly no longer works. The nervous system returns to scanning mode, searching for new rules. Anger often rises here, not only to express hurt, but to demand clarity. Anger says something important was violated and must be addressed so the future can be predicted again. Repair plays a critical role in restoring emotional stability. A sincere apology can calm the system because it reestablishes rules. It acknowledges harm and signals a change in behavior, allowing the mind to update its expectations. This is why excuses feel so unsatisfying. They prolong uncertainty. They leave the future unresolved. Repair, when genuine, closes the loop. It does not erase pain, but it changes the emotional trajectory from vigilance to possibility. Guilt supports this process by pushing attention outward. Unlike shame, which collapses the self inward, guilt focuses on impact and repair. It arises when a bond matters and behavior threatens it. Healthy guilt motivates action. It encourages explanation, restitution, and adjustment. When guilt becomes excessive or misplaced, it loses this function and turns into self-punishment. But in its balanced form, guilt is one of the emotions that keeps social systems intact. Shame operates differently. It targets identity rather than behavior. Instead of saying something went wrong, it suggests something is wrong with you. This distinction matters because shame encourages hiding, while guilt encourages repair. When shame dominates, the nervous system prepares for rejection. Withdrawal feels safer than exposure. Unfortunately, this withdrawal often blocks the very connection that would disprove the feared judgment. Shame thrives in isolation. It shrinks when met with calm understanding. Embarrassment sits somewhere between these states. It is brief, visible, and often self-resolving. A blush, a nervous laugh, a quick acknowledgement. Embarrassment signals awareness of social norms and care for the group. It often repairs minor ruptures without words. Because it is involuntary, others tend to read it as sincerity. In this way, embarrassment can actually increase trust, even though it feels uncomfortable in the moment. Pride also has multiple faces. When pride is linked to effort and growth, it reinforces perseverance. It marks progress and encourages continuation. When pride is linked to superiority or infallibility, it blocks learning. The emotional difference is subtle but important. One form of pride coexists with curiosity. The other defends against it. The first says this mattered and I can keep going. The second says this proves who I am and must not be questioned. Envy provides another example of how interpretation shapes outcome. At its core, envy points to desire. It highlights something valued but perceived as lacking. This information can motivate development when growth feels possible. When growth feels blocked, envy can sour into resentment. The emotion itself does not determine the path. The surrounding beliefs do. When the future feels open, envy becomes a compass. When it feels closed, envy becomes a threat. Gratitude works in the opposite direction by reinforcing bonds. Expressed gratitude makes effort visible. It reduces ambiguity about whether actions matter. This clarity strengthens relationships because people are more willing to give when they know their contribution is noticed. Gratitude also shifts attention toward what is already supporting you. This does not deny difficulty. It balances perception. In doing so, it can subtly change the emotional baseline, making resilience more accessible. Fairness triggers particularly strong emotional reactions because it relates directly to predictability and safety. From an early age, humans react to unequal treatment. This response is not purely moral. It is practical. When rules change arbitrarily, the world becomes difficult to navigate. Emotional reactions to unfairness often include anger and distress because they signal instability. Even adults will sometimes accept personal cost to prevent unfair advantage because maintaining a predictable system feels more valuable than short-term gain. This concern for fairness explains why people may reject deals that benefit them if the terms feel unjust. The emotional refusal protects dignity and signals boundaries. It says participation requires respect. While this instinct can sometimes fuel conflict, it also underpins cooperation. Groups function because members expect rules to apply consistently. Emotion enforces those expectations. Culture shapes how emotions are expressed and interpreted. Facial expressions, eye contact, volume, and pace all carry different meanings depending on social context. A calm demeanor may signal reliability in one culture and disengagement in another. High enthusiasm may signal warmth in one setting and immaturity in another. These differences can lead to misinterpretation when people apply their own emotional rules universally. Awareness of cultural variation expands emotional literacy. It allows curiosity to replace assumption. Language contributes to this shaping as well. Some emotional states are easy to name in certain languages and difficult in others. When a word exists, it creates a category that attention can notice. Learning new emotional vocabulary does not invent feelings, it reveals them. Distinctions that once felt vague become clear enough to work with. This clarity supports regulation because what can be identified can be addressed. Emotion recognition is a skill that improves with practice. It involves slowing down, observing patterns, and questioning initial assumptions. A quiet person is not necessarily angry. A serious face is not necessarily disapproving. Training attention to notice context, timing, and change rather than static expressions improves accuracy. This accuracy reduces unnecessary conflict and increases empathy. It allows response to what is actually happening rather than what is feared. Sleep plays a crucial role here. Fatigue reduces emotional precision. When tired, the brain relies more on shortcuts. Neutral cues are more likely to be read as negative. Patience decreases, and correction becomes harder. This combination makes misunderstanding more likely. Many conflicts escalate not because of the issue itself, but because of depleted regulation capacity. Rest restores nuance. It improves both perception and response. Chemical systems within the brain further influence emotional patterns. Oxytocin strengthens bonds within perceived groups, increasing trust and cooperation among those considered close. It does not remove boundaries. Instead, it amplifies existing social priorities. Dopamine highlights what seems worth pursuing, guiding motivation and learning. It responds to prediction and surprise, reinforcing behaviors that lead to better outcomes than expected. These systems do not dictate morality. They support adaptation. Understanding them helps explain why desire, loyalty, and motivation can feel compelling even when outcomes are mixed. Stress chemistry narrows focus and prioritizes threat detection. Under prolonged stress, the mind becomes preoccupied with potential problems. Attention locks onto uncertainties. Checking behaviors increase. This vigilance can be exhausting and self-reinforcing. The more attention scans for threat, the more threat seems present. Relief often requires changing bodily signals rather than arguing with thoughts. When stress hormones decrease, attention widens naturally. Rapid alarm systems in the brain can activate before conscious interpretation. A sudden sound or movement triggers muscle tension before identification. This early warning favors speed over accuracy. It is designed to err on the side of caution. Conscious understanding arrives moments later. Recognizing this timing difference helps reduce self-blame. A startled response is not a decision. It is a reflex. Choice becomes available after the reflex, not before. The ability to choose response rather than react depends on the capacity to pause. This capacity is supported by parts of the brain involved in planning and perspective. When overwhelmed or fatigued, this system weakens and reflex dominates. Supporting it involves reducing cognitive load, creating routines, and allowing rest. Emotional regulation is not suppression, it is flexibility. It allows feeling without being driven entirely by feeling. Suppressing emotion can appear effective on the surface while increasing internal strain. Holding feelings down requires effort. Muscles tense, breathing shallows, vigilance remains high. Over time, this effort accumulates as fatigue. Genuine calm feels different. It is softer. It includes feeling without resistance. Expression, when safe and skillful, allows emotion to move rather than stagnate. Naming emotions can facilitate this movement. Labeling shifts processing from raw sensation to organized experience. This shift can reduce intensity by creating distance. The emotion becomes something you are experiencing rather than something you are. This perspective invites inquiry. What triggered this? What does it need? What might help? Even when the feeling remains, it becomes less overwhelming. Apologies, when sincere, restore predictability. They clarify future behavior and acknowledge impact. This clarity calms anger because the underlying demand has been met. Anger seeks acknowledgement and safety. When those are provided, escalation becomes unnecessary. This does not mean consequences disappear. It means the emotional climate shifts from confrontation to resolution. Fairness, trust, belonging, and meaning all feed into the emotional landscape continuously. None of these operate in isolation. They overlap, reinforce, and counterbalance each other. Emotional life is not a simple sequence of reactions. It is a dynamic system adjusting moment by moment. As awareness of this system deepens, compassion often follows, toward others, whose reactions may reflect states rather than intentions, toward yourself, whose emotions may be responses to conditions rather than flaws. This compassion does not excuse harm, it contextualizes it, and allows firm boundaries without dehumanization. The more you observe emotional patterns without rushing to control them, the more information they offer. Emotions point toward needs, values, and limits. They reveal what matters. When listened to with steadiness, they become collaborators rather than adversaries. They help orient you within your own life, guiding attention toward what requires care, change, or protection. This process unfolds gradually. There is no single insight that completes it. Understanding builds through repetition, through noticing small shifts, through allowing curiosity to replace urgency. Over time, emotional awareness becomes less about managing feelings and more about cooperating with them. The inner environment grows more navigable, not because emotions disappear, but because their signals become familiar. In this familiarity, rest becomes deeper. The body no longer needs to shout to be heard. The mind no longer needs to rush to explain every sensation. Space opens between stimulus and response. In that space, choice lives quietly, waiting to be used. As this cooperation with inner signals becomes more familiar, another shift often occurs, subtle at first, then increasingly noticeable. Attention begins to move from controlling outcomes toward understanding processes. Instead of asking how to stop a feeling, curiosity turns toward how the feeling forms, what sustains it, and what allows it to dissolve. This change in orientation matters because control relies on force, while understanding relies on alignment. Force exhausts. Alignment conserves energy. One of the first processes to become visible is the role of expectation. Every moment carries an invisible forecast. Before an interaction begins, before a task starts, before a silence is interpreted, the mind has already sketched a likely outcome. This sketch shapes emotional response more than the event itself. When reality matches expectation, emotion remains muted. When it diverges, emotion flares. Surprise, disappointment, relief, and delight all emerge from the gap between what was anticipated and what actually occurs. Because of this, two people can experience the same event with entirely different emotional intensity. One expected difficulty and feels calm when it arrives. Another expected ease and feels distressed by the same challenge. Neither reaction is irrational. Each reflects a comparison against a private forecast. Emotional regulation improves not by eliminating expectations, which is impossible, but by loosening attachment to any single prediction. Holding expectations lightly creates flexibility. It allows adjustment without collapse. Flexibility also depends on how identity is involved. When outcomes feel tied to who you are rather than what you did, emotion intensifies. A mistake becomes not an error, but a threat to self-worth. Success becomes not a result, but a proof of value. This fusion amplifies emotional swings. Separating behavior from identity creates steadiness. It allows learning without shame and pride without arrogance. This separation is not detachment from caring. It is clarity about what is being evaluated. The nervous system responds strongly to perceived judgment. Even imagined judgment can activate stress responses. A raised eyebrow, a delayed reply, a neutral tone can be interpreted as disapproval when the system is already primed. In such states, the mind searches for confirmation, filtering information to support the fear. This confirmation bias makes emotional states feel self-validating. Anxiety finds reasons to continue. Awareness interrupts this loop by questioning the certainty of interpretation. Questioning does not mean dismissing feeling. It means distinguishing between sensation and story. The sensation may be real and intense. The story attached to it may be provisional. Holding that distinction allows room for alternative explanations. This room reduces urgency. When urgency decreases, perception broadens. With broader perception, more accurate conclusions become possible. Memory adds another layer to emotional processing. Emotional memories are not stored as neutral records. They are reconstructed each time they are recalled, influenced by current state. When you remember an event while anxious, the memory often feels more threatening. When recalled while calm, it may seem manageable. This fluidity explains why past experiences can change meaning over time. It also explains why revisiting memories in a safe state can reduce their emotional charge. The brain updates its record when it realizes the danger has passed. Traumatic memories behave differently. They resist integration because the original experience overwhelmed regulation systems. Instead of being stored as a coherent narrative, they remain fragmented, tied to sensory cues. Sounds, smells, or bodily positions can trigger reactions without conscious recollection. These reactions are not choices. They are learned alarms. Healing involves gradually reconnecting sensation with present context, allowing the system to relearn that now is different from then. Patience is essential in this process. The nervous system learns through repetition and safety, not through argument. Telling yourself you are safe rarely works if the body does not feel it. Showing safety through consistent cues does. Gentle routines, predictable support, and controlled exposure to reminders help recalibrate responses. Over time, triggers lose intensity as the system updates its predictions. Control often feels comforting because it promises certainty. Yet, excessive control can increase anxiety by implying that safety depends entirely on effort. When something goes wrong, the implication becomes personal failure. Allowing some uncertainty distributes responsibility back to reality. It acknowledges that not everything can be managed, and that coping does not require perfect prevention. This acceptance reduces pressure and frees energy for adaptation. Adaptation relies on feedback. Emotions provide this feedback continuously. Frustration signals blocked progress. Boredom signals lack of engagement. Contentment signals alignment. None of these are commands. They are data. Treating them as information rather than instructions changes how they influence behavior. Frustration may suggest adjusting strategy, not abandoning effort. Boredom may suggest seeking novelty, not forcing persistence. Contentment may suggest continuing, not clinging. Clinging introduces another form of emotional difficulty. When a pleasant state arises, the desire to preserve it can create tension. The system shifts from enjoying to guarding. This guarding tightens attention and ironically disrupts the experience it aims to protect. Letting experiences move naturally often allows them to last longer. Ease is sustained by openness, not by grip. Impermanence underlies all emotional states. Feelings rise, peak, and fade, even when they seem stable. Recognizing this flow reduces fear of intense emotions. Knowing that no state is permanent makes it easier to allow its presence. Resistance often prolongs discomfort by adding struggle. Allowance shortens duration by removing conflict. Allowance does not mean passivity. It means accurate contact with experience. From that contact, appropriate action can emerge. When sadness is allowed, it may lead to rest or connection. When anger is allowed, it may lead to boundary setting. When fear is allowed, it may lead to preparation. Suppressed emotions tend to leak indirectly. Allowed emotions tend to guide directly. Social environments influence which emotions feel permissible. Some contexts reward calm and discourage expression. Others value intensity and openness. Navigating these norms requires emotional code switching. This skill involves expressing feelings in forms that fit the environment without denying their existence. It is not deception. It is translation. The emotion remains real, but its expression adapts. Misalignment between inner state and outer expression can create strain if prolonged. Continually presenting a false calm or false enthusiasm requires effort. Over time, this effort depletes regulation capacity. Finding spaces where expression can be authentic restores balance. These spaces may be relationships, creative outlets, or private reflection. They provide release valves that prevent buildup. Creativity serves an important regulatory function. It allows emotion to be processed symbolically rather than literally. Through metaphor, rhythm, and imagery, complex feelings find form. This form provides containment. It allows expression without direct confrontation. Many people find that emotions they cannot explain in conversation can be explored through music, writing, or movement. Creativity bypasses the need for precise language, engaging the nervous system through pattern and sensation. Movement itself is a powerful emotional regulator. Emotions prepare the body for action. When action is inhibited, energy accumulates. Gentle movement discharges this energy. Walking, stretching, or rhythmic motion signals completion to the system. It says the preparation had a purpose. This completion reduces lingering tension. Even small movements can have disproportionate effects on mood. Breath links voluntary and involuntary systems. You cannot command your heart rate directly, but you can influence it through breathing. Slow, steady breathing increases variability in heart rhythm, a marker of regulatory flexibility. This flexibility supports emotional resilience. It allows faster recovery after stress. Breathing does not eliminate emotion. It changes the context in which emotion is processed. Attention determines intensity. The more narrowly attention focuses on a feeling, the larger it seems. Broadening attention by noticing surroundings, sounds, or bodily contact distributes processing load. The feeling remains but occupies less of the field. This is not distraction. It is perspective. It acknowledges the emotion while situating it within a larger context. Perspective also involves time. Asking how this will feel later introduces distance. This distance can reduce immediacy without minimizing importance. It allows the system to downshift from crisis mode to problem-solving mode. Temporal perspective is particularly helpful when emotions demand immediate action. Pausing to consider consequences often reveals options that were invisible under pressure. Values provide another stabilizing force. When actions align with values, emotions tend to settle even if outcomes are uncertain. Acting in accordance with what matters reduces internal conflict. It creates coherence between intention and behavior. This coherence supports self-trust. When self-trust is present, emotions feel less threatening because they are not experienced as evidence of weakness. Self-trust develops through follow-through. Doing what you say you will do, especially in small matters, builds reliability internally. This reliability reduces anxiety because the system expects support from within. When trust in self is low, emotions feel overwhelming because they seem unmanaged. Building trust does not require perfection. It requires honesty and repair when plans change. Repair applies internally as well. When you react in ways you regret, acknowledging the misstep and adjusting restores trust. Self-criticism prolongs dysregulation. Self-correction resolves it. The difference lies in tone. Correction is calm and forward-looking. Criticism is harsh and backward-looking. The nervous system responds differently to each. Over time, emotional awareness reveals patterns linked to cycles. Energy fluctuates across days, weeks, and seasons. Hormonal rhythms influence mood. Environmental light affects alertness. Social calendars affect stimulation. Recognizing these patterns allows planning that respects limits. Rest scheduled before exhaustion prevents collapse. Engagement scheduled during high-energy periods supports satisfaction. Anticipating emotional needs is a form of care. Preparing comforting routines for stressful times reduces impact. Scheduling connection during isolating periods maintains balance. This preparation is not avoidance. It is support. It acknowledges that emotional systems, like physical ones, function best with resources. Comparison often disrupts emotional equilibrium. Comparing internal states to others' external presentations creates distortion. People rarely display their full emotional range publicly. Assuming that others are consistently calm or confident while you are not feeds inadequacy. Remembering that everyone manages unseen processes restores proportion. Curiosity counteracts judgment. When emotions are approached with interest rather than evaluation, they reveal more. Asking what a feeling wants you to know opens dialogue. Sometimes the answer is simple. Sometimes it unfolds gradually. This dialogue builds familiarity. Familiarity reduces fear. Fear of emotion often stems from past overwhelm. When feelings once felt unmanageable, the system learned to avoid them. Gradual re-engagement in safe contexts rebuilds tolerance. This tolerance does not mean intensity disappears. It means capacity increases. You become able to experience more without being flooded. Capacity grows through repeated exposure paired with regulation. Feeling, then returning to baseline, teaches the system that recovery is possible. Each cycle builds confidence. Over time, emotional waves feel less dangerous because their endpoints are known. In this growing steadiness, emotions begin to feel less like obstacles and more like terrain. Some paths are steep, some gentle, some winding. Knowing the terrain does not eliminate effort, but it reduces surprise. You move with awareness rather than resistance. This movement conserves energy and increases choice. Choice emerges not as control over feeling, but as control over response. Feeling arises, response is selected. This sequence restores agency. Agency reduces helplessness. Helplessness intensifies distress. Thus, even small choices matter. Choosing to pause, to breathe, to speak, to wait. These micro-decisions accumulate into resilience. Resilience is not the absence of emotion. It is the capacity to move through emotion without losing orientation. It is the ability to feel deeply and still know who you are, what you value, and what comes next. This ability develops through understanding, practice, and compassion. As this capacity strengthens, emotional life becomes richer rather than flatter. Nuance replaces overwhelm. Depth replaces avoidance. Feelings are experienced more fully because they are no longer feared. Even difficult emotions carry information and meaning. Even pleasant emotions are appreciated without clinging. In this way, emotional awareness does not narrow life, it expands it. It allows engagement with experience as it is, in all its variation. The inner world becomes less mysterious, less threatening, more navigable, not because it is controlled, but because it is known.